your boy Brian, the Casual Brian, and this is the Casual Podcast. Trying to make sure everything's good. We're trying to go live on Instagram. All right, I think we're good. Sorry about that. So, yeah, this is the Casual Podcast. We are back. This is the second time this week. Today, we're going to be talking about the backlash Walmart and Target are experiencing over their rollback of DEI. We're also going to be looking at Joe Rogan being dethroned as the number one podcast on um, all podcasts. And lastly, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to look at some of the most disliked characters in Squid Game season 2. So that's looking at DEI and the effects that it's having on Walmart and Target. Then we're going to move on to Joe Rogan and have how his podcast has been dethroned. And then lastly, we're going to look at some of the more funky characters in Squid Games. This is the Casual Podcast. My name is Brian, the Casual Brian. You can find me at the Casual Brian on all platforms. Just type in the Casual Brian and you'll find me. Some places we have some underscores, but by and large, if you type in the Casual Brian, you should be able to find me. All right, let's get into it. So let me get right to the screen. Which way is better? I think this is better. So Walmart has been sounding the alarm, saying that they think the economy is down. Now, mind you, inflation is still in effect. The economy is definitely not in a great place. But Walmart, if you don't know, Walmart, and it's not just Walmart, it's a lot of companies, but Walmart was one of the first ones, one of the first big ones to decide that they were going to roll back their DEI initiatives. And if you don't know what DEI stands for, it's diversity, equity, and inclusion, meaning we want to set a priority to make sure that our companies, both in how they treat their clients and not patients, but their customers, and also reflected in their leadership and employment, they want to make an effort to make sure that they're diverse, make sure that they're equitable, and make sure that they're including people. Now, I don't know how that's a problem. For the life of me, I don't know how anybody could be against something being more diverse, more equitable, and more inclusive. Now, a lot of people, I'm trying to say it in a way that's not extremely divisive or offensive, but it's a divisive and offensive argument. You know, a lot of people who are having issues with this are white people who feel like they have been subject to missing out on jobs and opportunities because of these DEI programs. Now, anecdotally, I think most of us, if we look around at businesses, at major companies, corporations, you're not seeing a majority of these people being diverse, meaning not white and also probably not male. So I always struggle to understand what's the problem. What's the issue? You know what I'm saying? What what is it that you feel, if you are somebody who's against DEI, is the problem? Because the argument you hear a lot of times is that, oh, well, do you want a pilot that just got in because they're DEI, or do you want the best pilot? And the argument has a underlining element of racism in there, because the assumption is that if you are a member of DEI, you can then not be qualified. And that if you are a member of DEI, you are more than likely getting in over a more qualified white person. This is just not true. This is just not true. I'm not saying that it never happens. I'm not saying that it never happens. Nothing in life is perfect. You know what I mean? That's why we call it practicing medicine and practicing law. These are skilled physicians and attorneys, and yet they don't get it right every time. But we don't just get rid of the medical field and the legal field, we just make tweaks and we adjust. Now, if we let's say, for example, this would be an example where we can make adjustments. Let's say that in finance, they were pushing DEI, and we started to see a large influx of African American males being hired. So, out of proportion to their percentage in the population. So, I think that Black people overall make up, I want to say 13 to 14% of the population, the overall population. It seems like that's so low, right? But it's the reality is we don't live in the majority of our country. The majority of people in America only stay around the places that they live. So I've had the benefit of living in New York, in Florida, and Texas, and I cannot stress to you how much those demographics are different. They are completely different demographics. So let's say we started seeing 20, 30% hiring at these companies. Well, okay, that is not a bad thing, but it does seem like it's out of whack. So then I would understand wanting to adjust to make sure that it's not out of whack. But that's not what we're seeing. You can walk into almost any top financial institution and you're not going to see a majority or 30% or 20% Black people or African Americans or Black and brown people. You're not going to see that. All the major industries, and possible employment opportunities, they are predominantly white. If you go to most major universities, they are predominantly white. So I'm just like, I'm wondering what is the ask? Is it that none? You don't want people of color to have anything? Is that what you're saying? Because that's what it sounds like. Like life, unfortunately, not due to life itself, but to people, is unfair. There is more than enough to go around. There's more than enough land in America. There's more than enough resources and finances for America. But we've decided that we want to live in a society where it's okay for people to take way more than they need, way more than their family needs, way more than their immediate and extended family needs. It's okay. Why do we have billionaires? But okay, I'm getting off. So DEI is a good thing. DEI just simply says, let's prioritize being diverse, because diversity is a good thing. I've learned this from traveling the world. I've learned this from living in New York. Being exposed to other cultures and other communities and other perspectives is a good thing. You need that. You need that on a micro level. You need that on a macro level. You need to understand that this, let's take, for example, I think it was Kylie Jenner. I can never remember these two, Kendall and Kylie. I think Kylie is the one that's dating Bad Bunny. If I'm not, I might be mistaken, but I think that's the one. Remember when she made that Pepsi commercial and it was awful? It was awful. It was during the whole George Floyd thing, and the idea was there was protesters on one side, and then there was police on the other side, and she broke protest lines to go out and give a police officer a Pepsi, because that's going to solve all our issues. Police officers drinking Pepsi. Now, if there had been DEI, I mean, I imagine Pepsi has DEI, but if there had been somebody in the room, I imagine a person of color, to stand up and say, hey, this doesn't make sense. This is not a good look. That's an example of how diversity and inclusion helps. It could avoid situations that people from a certain community might not notice, might not see the big deal. What's the big deal? It's a good commercial. That's a good message. The thought was good, but the idea was ridiculous and it should have never gone. So anyway, I say all that to say I'm not here to defend DEI necessarily, but I am here to say that I personally believe DEI is a good thing and we need more of it and we should have it. Walmart and Target are in trouble, and I'm happy to see it. I'm not rooting for any business. I don't root for business. That's not the arrangement. My relationship with business is, if you have something I need, I go there, and if it's the lowest price or the best quality, I will give you my money that I work for. So I'm not pro or anti Walmart or Target or any of these stores, because I also believe that they're going to say and do whatever it takes to get our money. And it has nothing to do with actually caring for the cause or the need. They're just going to do or say whatever they need to make money, to get our money, and to stay in the good graces of whatever we consider to be the majority or the popular sentiment. So when I say I'm glad that Walmart and Target are suffering, it's because they're not prioritizing me and my community and the people in my community. And so I like to see companies have to face backlash. I like to see companies also be supported. When the pandemic happened and a lot of companies went out of business, I was a little bit harsh. And the reason why is because I feel like business in America has shifted from prioritizing and appreciating their customers to simply understanding that we can do numbers and everybody's replaceable. So everybody's not trying, like back in the day when I was growing up, companies appreciated loyalty. They appreciate it when you stay with their company for years and years and years. Now they don't care. They know that, okay, we lost this many cell phone users. We'll get them back. People are always jumping. There's no loyalty, and there's no reason to be loyalty, or there's no reason to be loyal. Excuse me. So I don't trip. I don't trip when I see these companies go down because they don't care about me. It's the same as how I feel about sports, right? Like I see these basketball players and these coaches, no, not these athletes and these coaches, and they switch teams, and people are like, "Oh my God, they're not faithful, bro." If you have one bad season, they can fire you. They will fire you. So loyalty has to go both ways. So Walmart is saying that they're concerned. They think that the economy might be down. The economy is down. The economy sucks right now. Inflation is crazy. I'm at least glad that we started checking some of these fast food companies who were getting crazy with the prices. And it's amazing how like about a year ago, everything was like almost $20 for a meal. And now somehow magically we're having all these $5 meals. They're creeping back up. I think they're like 6 now. But we were just letting them get away with it because look, this is my thing. I'm not an economist. I'm not a finance expert by any means, but I do understand this. How can you have record profits and then tell me that inflation is affecting your inventory? Doesn't make sense. It just doesn't make sense. You now, if inflation really was a problem, then you would just be getting by. Not saying you'd be in the negative, not saying you'd be breaking even. You would just be getting by. But that's not what we were seeing. We were seeing companies getting record breaking profits. So inflation was just a scam. It was just a curtain for them to hide their greed, and they were gouging us. So, I'm happy to see that some things are going down. Eggs are going crazy, but it's not just eggs. It's been like 2 or 3 years now that if you go to the grocery store, it costs a ridiculous amount of money. Like, people, they say like it doesn't cost that much money to eat healthy. It does. It does. Right now it does. And so I'm not denying that the economy is not in a great place. A lot of people are losing their jobs for various reasons. If you're in the government is definitely um, trimming the fat, as they would say it. And I'm I'm not a type of person to be like everything is black and white. I do think that there was some bloat in our government. I do think that there were some areas that didn't need as much. Anytime I've interacted with the government, it has not been a smooth process. It has not been an enjoyable process. I do not find them to be some of the best workers. But that's mostly the people that interact with the people. You know what I mean? So they're not the higher ups. So I'm not saying that there's not room for the government to be improved at all. Now, coming in and just firing everybody for no reason seems a little crazy to me. Also, it seems like you would want to phase that in, but anyway. So we're seeing the economy is struggling, but that's not why we're seeing what we're seeing with Target and what we're seeing with Walmart. That's an intentional boycott and backlash for them, changing their DEI programs. And there was no reason to. Now, I understand that the Trump administration said that they might be going after companies that participate in DEI, and yet Delta Airlines is continuing. Apple is continuing. And that's my whole point. Apple's continuing, Google is not. Delta is continuing, Meta is not. And Meta is that's a whole nother thing, man. I want to say I'm disappointed in Mark, but I'm not, because I think that this is who he is. This is what he does. This is what he's into. And so we just got to decide. I'm not here to tell you to protest whatever you want, because what matters to me might not matter to you. But what I am here to say is you need to start taking some serious steps. You need to start putting your money where your mouth is, because if you want to see change, it's not going to just happen. You gotta make that change happen. You know what I mean? Like you gotta decide what's important to you. And it's not just about to you, it's also what's important to your children. You know what I'm saying? Like these decisions that we're making now are going to affect our kids and their kids. So for me, I was very hurt and disappointed in Target, because they had been doing a lot of good things, for Black and brown communities. If you're not aware, Target had a very amazing, and I guess they're still having it. I don't know. I haven't shopped at Target. I will not shop at Target. They had a great program for Black History Month where they highlighted small Black owners and Black creators, and they had like clothing and merch and products. And it was a wonderful, wonderful thing. For them to turn their backs on that is hurtful, because there was no reason to. It was a good thing for both. It was profitable and it was inclusive. So I feel like Target literally stabbed Black people in the back. Walmart, I have no faith in Walmart. It's like I said, my relationship with them is transactional. Do I need something that Walmart can give me? Yes, I'll go there. Do I feel like, some people are like, oh, mom and pops, they kill them? I don't care. I don't think I personally don't believe you can beat good service. Like in New York, you go to the corner store, they know your name, they know your order. You know what I mean? And they know how you like your food prepared. That attention to detail is the advantage. I think that that's what's going to ultimately win out. I think that if you show a person that you care about their dollars, their service, then they're gonna show up for you. I'll pay more. I'll pay more for sure. I'm for example, I only get Apple. I only use Apple products. And the reason why is not because they're cool, even though I do think they're cool, but I like their product. I like their service. I like the quality of it. I think it's better. So because I think it's better, I'm going to spend more. I also like the way they treat me. I never have any problems with Apple ever. So as a result of that, I have an iPhone 16. I have my Apple Watch. I have a MacBook Pro. I have an iPad. I have it all. I want it all. If you prioritize your customer, if you treat your customer well, they will be loyal to you. So Walmart and Target are struggling right now. They're struggling because they decided not to prioritize but you know what? They might be prioritizing a different customer, and that's fine. That's America. I am never for in business forcing companies to prioritize who they want to. If they want to only go after a small sector of people, that's fine. As long as I am not forced to spend my money there, I'm okay with it. But I just think that this rollback from DEI is going to continue to bring us these backlash, these boycotts, and we're going to keep seeing a shift. We're going to see a shift. You're going to see a shift when you go into Walmarts or Targets. You're going to see a shift when you go to certain stores. You're going to see a shift on Facebook in the tone, similar to what we've seen with Twitter, which is now X, which is now a dumpster fire. And Threads is running right on their tail. It's so crazy because Threads was made to be an uh, anti-Twitter, and now they literally said that they want to be more like Twitter. It blows my mind. So switching over to your boy Joe Rogan, uh, what can I say about Joe? Joe Rogan is tricky for me because I was a massive Joe Rogan fan. Not Joe Rogan himself. I mean, I'm not taking anything away from him. You know what I mean? Like I just loved the format that he created. Like anybody who enjoys podcasts now and anybody who's doing podcasts now, you got to tip your hat a little to Joe. He's responsible. He created he made podcasts cool. And the way he did it was such a brilliant uh format. He just basically got people on that had interesting things to say and he talked to them, which I think is amazing. Like I think it's always better. I think people find it more entertaining having a podcast where you have guests on rather than talking head like I'm doing now. But I mean, you do what you can do. But Joe Rogan, the thing that I loved about him in the past was that he seemed open-minded. You know what I mean? Like I didn't agree with everything he said. I don't agree with everything that most people say. We're individuals with our own way of thinking. But Joe, to me, always seemed open-minded, and he seemed like he wanted to know. He seemed like he was coming from a similar place as I am. I don't just go with anything or believe anything that people say. I try to do my research. I try to figure it out for myself. And Joe seemed like that. And he had great guests. But even some of his guests are starting to show that they weren't so great. But that's all of us. Before I get into like my thoughts on Joe, that's all of us. Nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect, and we're always changing. And the vast majority of people are trying to do what's right for themselves, for their families, for their friends. Joe just flipped it up though, man. And I know people said, like, I said that Joe kind of changed things up once he got money. And people were like, well, Joe was always rich. He wasn't rich like he is now. You got to understand there's differences to this thing. You know what I mean? Like if I got a couple $1,000,000, yeah, I'm doing okay. I'm not rich. It's crazy. It sounds crazy to say. I think that the majority of the people in America, and I think this is intentional, do not understand wealth, do not understand finances. They don't understand credit cards, loans, savings, retirement. They don't understand any of that. I want to be a millionaire. Okay, well, there's a big difference between having $5 million and over $100 million. In fact, anything under $100 million is not the same. Even having like $70 million is crazy. Joe has, I think the last time I checked, he has like 400 million. Let's check. We don't have to guess. I'm gonna Google it real quick. Joe Rogan net worth 2025. So his net worth is 200 million. 200 million, which is weird because I thought his contract with Spotify was worth 200 million by itself. So, you see, that's the thing. Oh, but I guess you know what? He has invested in the comedy club that he made out in Austin. So that probably took a little bit out of it. Even still, I feel like 200 million is low. But at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. 200 million is a ton of money. This man shouldn't go broke ever. You know what I mean? And once he got that money, he started changing. And I get it. I am not somebody who thinks taxes is a great thing. I understand the purpose, and I've lived in a city, New York, where I've benefited from that. As a jazz musician, we don't get health insurance. We don't get benefits. We don't get a lot of stuff that you get just working at a regular job. And so I definitely appreciate uh, the tax situation. Now, here's the thing. And again, I am not an economist. I'm just telling you what I think. Taxes are not equally distributed. And so it sucks for a good chunk of people. Poor people can't pay because they don't have money. Rich people have every way to get out of it. So they don't pay. And then Who has to pay? The people that just make enough, or the people that are wealthy. It sucks for them, man. You make 250,000. Ooh, you are in a rough place. They want all of it. They want you to shoulder the load. And I think that's wrong. I think billionaires should pay more because they have more and it affects them less. But we live in a country where everybody wants to get as much as they can, regardless of if they need it, regardless of if they even want it. So I am going to get as much as I can. So he's been the man when it comes to podcasts. And after he went full MAGA, now he's starting to see a little bit of a backlash. He's starting to lose followers. Hold on, let me see if I can find it. This one I think shows it. So this one says that he's lost 34% of his following. Fam, that is massive. That is massive. Okay. Joe Rogan losing 34% of his following is, I think, mostly people like myself, because Joe Rogan's always going to have the diehard fans, the MMA guys, the martial artists, the bros, the males from, like, I want to guess, like 23 to like 40 something. They're going to stick with Joe, but the people that he's losing are independent people like myself. And I consider myself independent, even though I'm registered Democrat. I consider myself independent, and I'm probably going to change because I don't care about primaries anymore. I need them to I need the Democratic Party to understand that they don't align with me. But I think that people that are independent are not really feeling Joe, because he's really put all his eggs into the right wing basket. I mean, he in the photo that we're looking at right here, that's Joe at the Trump inauguration. That's crazy. Never in a million years would I have thought that I would ever see Joe Rogan at the Trump inauguration. That's crazy, fam. That's crazy. This man said that he would never support Trump. Now, look, I understand people change, people, grow, but this man said he would never support Trump. And not only did he fully support Trump, but he helped him get elected. Joe Rogan is directly responsible for helping Trump get elected. Some people might think that's a great thing. I personally don't. I personally would have wished that he could have stayed out of politics. I'm not one of those shut up and dribble people. I'm not at all. That's not what I'm saying. He has every right to talk about politics as he wants. It's his platform that he built himself. But I feel like if you're going to portray yourself as this neutral person, that you're only going on issues, he could have done a better job to be balanced. He could have. I'm sorry. He could have. He could have done a better job. Now, do I think that Kamala Harris, the onus was on her to get to his podcast? Yes, it's his podcast. If you want to go on Joe Rogan's podcast, you need to figure out how to get there. You need to make time to get there. And when she didn't go, I wrote on her page. I wrote on the pages that I could get to, because it's incredibly hard to get in touch with these people. This is the mistake. It is a massive, massive mistake for Kamala Harris to not go on Joe Rogan. You need to talk directly to his audience, to his fan base. But, whatever. It doesn't matter. But Joe Rogan is losing. He's no longer the number one podcast. And some people might be like, oh, it happens. It happens. No, it's not about it happens. Joe is losing. This one says he's lost up to 41% of his listeners. 41%. Man, that's almost half. And I believe it. And the reason why I believe it is because I think that Joe has kind of lost his way. And I think that he's hanging out with a certain type of audience, certain type of crew. And that crew is leading him astray. You know what I mean? Like, Joe it's different. His podcast feel different. A lot of his friends have gotten to some controversy, like Brendan Schaub, Brian Callen, Brett. I don't the thing that's crazy to me is I don't understand how he stays friends with somebody like um, Tom Segura. I can't imagine being friends with Joe Rogan as Tom. I mean, their political views. I mean, you want to hope that your friendship can last. And it can't be, and it shouldn't be destroyed by politics. But man, when you go hard on something, it's tough, man. It's tough. It's tough. So yeah, Joe Rogan's losing. He's losing. He's losing, and he's losing because he's shifted. I think that Joe Rogan's appeal ultimately was that he was knowledgeable, he was funny, he was fun, but he was open. He was open-minded. It was his open-mindedness to knowledge and information and understanding that made him so appealing. And that's why when he had these people on his podcast, these conversations were great, and it's just so funny, man. Like the people that I wonder how like some of the people felt because Joe Rogan has helped a lot of people. He's helped their careers. He's made them, an appearance on Joe Rogan, like Nikki Glaser, Danica, I think her name is Danica Patrick, Dr. Danica Patrick, Jordan Peterson, Theo Vaughn, Brandon Schaub. All these people have been helped, Joey Diaz by Joe Rogan. And some of them I know for a fact are Democratic or left leaning. And it's just got to be so tough. I have friends, I'm from Florida, lived in Texas. So I have some friends that are on the right. And some of them are cool. You know what I mean? Like some of them, they just believe in certain things. Some of them we have like overlapping beliefs, but some of them are not, man. And it's just such a drag. It's such a drag. And it's not that they're not cool, but they let their politics really define who they are. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want to see your political views every day, all day, every day. And just like, I'm sorry. I will say, as a person who's been predominantly Democratic, that the left is petty. The left is extremely petty, but the right is mean. They're just mean. And I'm like, why? Okay, you know what I mean? Like, I'm my thing with the right is like, you won. Trump smashed Kamala Harris, which, surprise, surprise. Why are you angry? Why are you still angry? You won. You got the House, you got the Senate, you got the presidency, you got the Supreme Court, you got it all. Why are you mad? Why are you still mad? Oh, maybe because the stuff that they were saying that they were going to do, they can't do. They're not trying to do. And your life still sucks. And it has nothing to do with the Democratic Party or the Republican Party. Life is just hard right now. We made it through a pandemic, and now we are putting back the pieces. It has nothing to do with the left and the right, but as we've seen, some people have gone over to the right, like Joe Rogan, and he's paying the price. He got bumped out by a podcast called The Midas Touch. I've never listened to this podcast. I should check it out. I mean, it's it's being portrayed as an anti-Trump podcast, so I don't really know how you make a living just talking about not being for Trump. Um, I understand debunking some of his facts or some of the stuff that he's saying, but it's like at this point, why are we even debunking things? Who cares? Not that who cares. Who cares is wrong. Who cares is not the right sentiment. But there's just so much. You know what I mean? Like I'm at a point now where like I don't even listen to Trump anymore. Like I don't, you know what I mean? Like I don't. They're talking about giving out $5,000 checks. Okay. That'd be great if I could get one. It's not going to change how I feel about you or Elon. Elon's terrible. Elon's terrible. And Elon is one of Joe Rogan's biggest Joe Rogan is one of Elon's biggest fans. And that's also led to some of the reason why Joe Rogan's followers have left. They're just tired of Elon. I mean, it's like even people on the right are tired of Elon. Like, what's the guy's deal, man? And let me talk about Elon for a second. Elon is not the guy that a lot of people think he is. A lot of people talk about Elon like this man is some kind of genius. He's not. He is not the genius that everybody wants this man to be. He is not that guy. Elon Musk came from money. He used that money to make smart acquisitions, but he definitely did a lot of spaghetti against the wall. And then now he's just put himself out. He's branded himself as this really smart guy. He's not. He's not. He's not. So Joe Rogan has been bumped. Is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? I don't know. It's for you to decide. It's for you to decide. I'm just reporting the news. And lastly, we're gonna have a little bit of fun. I mean, it's gonna be fun for me. If I can get it up, geez, phrasing on that one. All right. Here we go. So for this last one, we're gonna look at Squid Games. I don't know if this is gonna be the last one. I might do a little bit more too, but anyway. So I seen this post a while ago, and it's asking who is the most disliked character in Squid Game season 2. And these, I think, are some really good choices. I don't think it's everybody. I think it's pretty much everybody. Some people I don't know why they're on there. Like right away, why is 456 on there? There is no reason for the main character of Squid Games, who I can't remember his name right now. You got to forgive me. I'm horrible with names. Is anyone else like really bad with names? Like I try a bunch of stuff, and like if it's important to me, like when I meet you or like if I see you again, I'll just start trying to do like things like Bob the Builder. Let's say your name's Bob. I'm like Bob the Builder. Okay, Bob the Builder. Bob the Builder. Can we do it? Can we build it? Yes, we can. You know what I mean? I'm gonna do something like that if it's important to me. But for the most part, I'm just terrible with names. Anyway, the main character of Squid Games, I don't know why anybody would dislike him. I like I don't know. I guess they're just putting stuff up there, but I do not know why anybody would dislike him. This man is literally putting his life on the line to try to save people. I mean, what do you want from him? It's like, Tyrese, what more do you want from me? Where does my Shayla come from? Does anyone know? Does anyone know where my Shayla comes from? I always wonder about that. My Shayla. Is that his daughter's name? Like, I know he has that video where like he's talking about what more do you want from me? Because he's talking about child support. But is that where my Shayla comes from? Let me know if you know in the comments. Where does my Shayla come from? Let's get into this list though. So Squid Games, we're looking at the characters of Squid Games season 2 and picking the most disliked character. The first character I see, 333. I didn't love this character. I can't say he was like, I wouldn't think of him as the most disliked, but he definitely had some shadiness. You know what I mean? He definitely had some manipulative ways about him, like between him and the girl that was pregnant. That was the main thing that I didn't like about him. The way he treated her, I don't want to say treated her, the way he interacted with her was weird. It felt creepy. It felt manipulative. It felt sneaky. So I didn't love that. But I think that what made it tough was if we look at like character 124 and character 230, Thanos, they bullied that guy the whole time. And so it made him endearing. But I also feel like we're missing like the backstory. You know what I mean? Like I feel like we're gonna find out more about him in the second core. I don't know if they're calling it like a new season. I think of it more like a second core. But I think that we're missing something. Either way, I didn't love the character, but I definitely didn't hate him. 388, I think his name was Doe or something like that. I like this character. I thought he was great. Now, now this is spoiler. This whole list is going to contain spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, this is your opportunity to just bounce and you can come back later or catch me another time. I felt like people are too hard on him. I feel like he freaked out. And now, mind you, I feel like most people would freak out in his situation. You know what I mean? Does it make it right? No. Did he abandon his friends? Yes. But I think a lot of people would do that. And I think that he meant well. I think that he just freaked out. I mean, I can't tell if he had some like PTSD, you know what I mean? Because he was freaking out with the fires, the sound of the shots. They were just sending him somewhere. Like he seemed like he wasn't there. So I don't hate the guy. I think most people don't hate him. I think people probably the better feeling would be disappointed. We were disappointed in him. I was disappointed in him. I thought he could have done better. Now this is my first contender. 007. 007. This guy was the worst. You can't, I don't get, you know what blows my mind? I'm gonna say why I don't like him first, and then I'm gonna talk about like the backlash that I'm getting. This man betrayed his mother multiple times. Multiple times. You can't betray your mother. I'm sorry. That's a period. You can't betray your mother. Not in the Squid Games. Come on. That's crazy. That's crazy talk. But what's even crazier than this guy betraying his old mother multiple times is how people are defending this guy. And I think what's happening also is that people are conflating the two, like the character and the person who plays him, because apparently he's funny and he's a nice guy, and that's fine. But his character is terrible. His character is scum, bro. Like, I don't care what anyone says. I understand that people were like, "Oh, the people were dragging him away." You couldn't drag me. Three buff dudes could not drag me away from my mother being out there. It's either going to be both of us or neither of us. I'm sorry. That guy, he fought a little bit and then he gave in and he turned and went to the room. He turned, people. He turned and ran to the room. What are you talking about? What are we even talking about? There's no defending this guy. There is absolutely, positively no defending this guy at all. At all. There's no defending 007. He was horrible. He was horrible. First, okay, and this is another thing too. People don't fully count. The first betrayal was when he decided to keep playing when she wanted to leave. Bam. I could see at the beginning if they would have done this at the beginning before he fully understood, but he had already played a game. He fully understood the consequences, not just for himself, but for his old mother. You can't defend 007. He's indefensible. I'm sorry. You can't defend this guy. So he did that. And then he also, then there's the major one where he gets pulled into the room. So anyway, he's my first pick. 100. So, okay, there's 200s. I don't know why. I don't know what's up with that. I'm talking about the old man on the left. I didn't like him. I couldn't stand him. I found him to be obnoxious, but I think that he will get his really soon. So I'm not as stressed out about him. I didn't I it's really hard to say. I'm going to put them both up off to the side. 007 and 100, because I really didn't like 100, and I felt like, you know what I mean? Like, you just wanted to sock him. Like, shut up, dude. The stuff that he was saying was crazy, and it was so entitled, and it was just like, dude, what are you talking about? You know what I mean? He's like, none of y'all have ever lost as much money as I. You got to be important to get money. Like, dude, what does that matter? You're here. You're here. You want a guy like that to get it. But anyway, obviously the main character, no. Now this guy, I don't hate him at all. I just, again, it's more of a disappointment. You know what I mean? He's a coward. He's a coward. But I mean, most of us, no matter how brave we think or we might want to be, in a situation like his, we'd be a coward, you know? But I mean, this man was a coward all the way to the end. You know what I'm saying? All the way to the end. It takes a lot. He really committed to the role. I mean, this man, he went out like a coward. I mean, he didn't go out, sorry, there's no spoiler. But when he was watching that girl get taken out, man, I was like, bro, you gotta do something. Do something, man. You know? And you know what? Another, just like a side note is a lot of people seem to believe that there's a lot of VIPs in this season. So 388 is considered to be a VIP undercover. Obviously, we know player 1 is undercover. Player 007, they're thinking his mother is actually a VIP and that she was married to the first player 1. I don't know. 100 also came up. I don't know, possibly, but I'm not going to get really into that. 100, the second player 100, just disappointing. I don't hate him. I don't think most people hate him. Maybe some people got extremely angry or frustrated with him, but I don't know if I would say hate. 124. Now this guy 124 and 230 go hand in hand because the way you feel about them is pretty much almost identical. But for me, 124 is a little bit more evil. He seems to be a little bit more of a puppeteer than a puppet. And he seems to be kind of like pulling the strings, you know? He has an ulterior motive. And I wouldn't be surprised is when we finally get the 333 backstory, 124 is related to it. He's going to have something to do with it. They're going to be connected in a way that we didn't think. So I found 124 and 230 to be bad. I didn't like them, but they were definitely not my most hated. They just were irritating. You know, I mean, aside from the push, that was bad. That was bad. But you know, they got what they deserved. At least Thanos did, I think. Um, you can't do what he did in the red light, green light game and then not get your get back. And he got his get back. So I found them more irritating than hateable, if that makes sense. I don't think I hated them, but I definitely disliked them. I definitely was irritated by them. I definitely was like, okay, that's enough of them. Okay, and then we got to 044. She was obnoxious. I'm gonna put her there. So for my three picks, and we're gonna narrow it down for characters that I didn't like in Squid Games are 044, 007, and 100. And again, mind you, like it's really hard to decide between characters that you really didn't like because I didn't like all these characters. Like I really didn't like these characters. I have a special spot in my heart for 007 because again, he betrayed his mother and you don't betray your mother. It feels crazy to have to say it like that or to say it at all. You just don't do it. But he did. Now I found I think it was what was it 044? I think she was pretty obnoxious herself. Let me go back over to our list. Yeah, 044, she was pretty obnoxious. I mean, like I thought that like when she had that game where she was struggling, that she kind of found some humility and realized that, hey, maybe I'm not all powerful or whatever. You know, she seemed to have lost the faith or her faith was shaken. And it was amazing how after she survived, then she went right back to being her old cocky self, you know, aggressive self. And that it was like that side of her more so than the first side that really turned me off. It was like, oh man, you had an opportunity to change, and I thought you had changed. And I get it. I give her a little bit of grace because I think that she was just hurt. She was, you know, a lot of it was hurt, and we were kind of getting an insight into her psychology. But even still, it's like, dude, come on, man. Come on. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. She was tough. She was tough to deal with. She was frustrating. But I think, and I don't feel similar. 100, I just don't like. I just don't like him. I don't like him. I think that he caused a lot of trouble. He made it difficult for them. Uh, he only cares about himself. He's using everybody. But for me, it's just like I can try to talk around it. I can try to come up with other reasons. I can try to justify. It's 007. It's clearly for me 007. I wish I had a like one that was smaller or bigger even. But 007 is it. I mean, you can't betray your mother. And again, for all the people that are defending this man, the first vote was after the game. He knew what the stakes were and he chose to continue on because he was selfish. And when those two guys were grabbing him, I don't care what you say. He's a big boy. He could have easily just went limp and let them run away. You're not getting me into a room without my mother. Period. Period. You're not getting me into a room without my mother. I'm sorry. It's not gonna happen. It's not gonna happen. And for all those who defend this guy 007, shame on you. shame, shame on you. So yeah, those have been that's what's been popping this week. I guess it's been 2 weeks, but yeah. So next week, I don't, I'll see what's popping again. What the format that I'm doing now, if you're wondering, is I'm pretty active on TikTok, Facebook, excuse me, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, all the platforms. But whatever I notice kind of take off, I'm going to start sharing here. I'm trying. My goal is to do a live on Monday and on Friday. Monday kind of to talk about what happened on the weekend, and Friday to talk about what's happening on the week. That's my goal, and then you'll be able to see these 3 segments on YouTube and I guess Facebook. I haven't decided. I'm really struggling with Meta right now. I'm really not happy with them. I'm really not happy with how they're treating their people, and I think that right now they're hiding the fact that people are going to be leaving the app because right now they're paying people $50,000 to create content on there. So I mean, obviously they're getting a boost, but I think that you're going to see a big decline in Meta by the summer at the very latest. At the very latest, Meta is just they are not in a good place. They are not, and they haven't been in a relevant place in a while, but they took that and they made it worse. So I got to see. You might not see my stuff there. I mean, you're seeing my live there because why not? I got friends and family that I want to share with, but I'm definitely prioritizing TikTok. I'm definitely prioritizing YouTube. I was doing Snapchat, but Snapchat is not really, you know what I mean? They're not really doing their thing right now. Um, I don't want to say they're not doing their thing. It's just hard. Snapchat's just difficult. So I got to keep trying to figure out how to do Snapchat. But anyway, that's my podcast. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you enjoyed the segment. If you did, be sure to leave a comment. And if you want, if you're not already following, be sure to follow me at the Casual Brian. You can find me. And again, I'll be here on Mondays and Fridays for the near future. Until the next time, remember, stay casual. Peace.